Have you ever wondered what your last name remembers that you have forgotten? Long before written records and official documents, names carried memory. They carried lineage, allegiance, and belonging. Across the Celtic lands of Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and ancient Britain, a surname was never just a label. It was a living thread tied to land and kin. In early Gaelic Ireland, society was organised around clans. The Irish word clan meant children. A clan was an extended family, descended from a common ancestor. Names reflected that ancestry. The prefix Y meant grandson or descendant, Mac meant son. When you hear names like O'Neill or McCarthy, you are hearing echoes of medieval lineage. O'Neill comes from Y Neil, meaning descendant of Niall. Niall of the Nine Hostages was remembered as a powerful 5th century ruler. His descendants shaped Ulster 4 generations. McCarthy comes from Mac Carthy, son of Carthog. That family rose to prominence in Munster during the Middle Ages. In Scotland, a similar structure took root. The Gaelic Mac carried the same meaning. MacDonald, MacLeod, Mackenzie. Each signals descent from a founding ancestor. Highland clans were bound to specific territories. Land was held in trust for the people, not owned in isolation. Your surname placed you within protection, duty, and shared history. In Wales, naming followed another path, yet preserved the same idea. Welsh fathers passed identity directly to sons. A.P. Rees slowly became Price. A.P. Highwell became Powell. Over time, these patronymic forms settled into fixed surnames. Beneath the modern spelling, the older structure still survives. Even in England, Celtic roots endured along the western edges. Brittonic traditions blended with Anglo-Saxon and Norman influence. Some English surnames hide ancient Celtic origins beneath later forms. Names changed through conquest, migration, and survival. After the Norman conquest, new naming customs entered Britain. Later Anglo-Norman lords arrived in Ireland. Some families adopted Norman names, others reshaped them into Gaelic forms. Burke began as de Burgh. In Ireland, it evolved into de Burca. Identity was never static. It adjusted to politics, power, and protection. Yet Celtic naming patterns continued beneath the surface. Many surnames carry geography within them. Campbell comes from the Gaelic Cambuel, meaning crooked mouth. What began as description became the name of a powerful Highland clan. Kennedy derives from Sinidai, meaning helmeted head. These were once living traits of real individuals. Across generations, description became dynasty. Some surnames preserved occupation or landscape. A family near a riverbank might carry a name reflecting that place. Others reflected devotion, learning, or craft. Over centuries, language shifted. Spellings were anglicized, pronunciations softened or hardened. Some families altered names to avoid persecution. Others adapted to fit administrative systems. Yet even after change, the older language often remains audible. Listen carefully, and Old Irish, Scottish Gaelic, or Welsh still echoes. Language carries continuity. Names are small vessels of that language. They survive famine, war, displacement, and diaspora. Today, millions carry Celtic surnames across the world. Some remain in Dublin, Glasgow, Cardiff, or London. Others live in North America, Australia, and beyond. Yet their names still trace back to hills, rivers, and forgotten chiefs. A surname can be a doorway into recorded human history. It can lead toward monasteries, clan gatherings, and oral tradition. It can reconnect us with ancestors whose stories were rarely written. In the quiet sound of a family name, the past still breathes. What happens when a name crosses an ocean during the great waves of migration? From Ireland and Scotland, surnames travelled far from their original soil. The Irish famine of the 19th century forced millions to leave ships, carried families to America, Canada, and Australia. They carried little but memory and a name. Ellis Island officials often rewrote unfamiliar spelling, so Mac prefixes were sometimes dropped, accents disappeared, Gaelic sounds were reshaped into English patents. A name like Y. Brian became O'Brien, Mac Gabhan often became Smith. Original meaning sometimes faded from view, yet the structure still held a hidden story. In Scotland, the Highland clearances displaced entire communities. Glen territories were untied families, moved to cities, or sailed abroad. MacDonalds settled in Nova Scotia. Campbell's farmed in Australia. Their names became anchors in unfamiliar landscapes. Wells miners carried names like Evans, Jones, and Morgan into industrial regions across the world. Even when language was lost, identity remained attached to the surname. Over time, descendants forgot the original Gaelic or Welsh tongue, but the name continued to signal origin in many Celtic cultures. Oral tradition once preserved genealogy. Bards memorized long ancestral lineages in medieval Ireland. Professional historians recorded pedigrees for ruling familiar. Sliege was proof of legitimacy. To know your ancestors was to know your place in society. Handwritten records were destroyed through war or suppression. Memory survived in spoken form. A surname became a compressed archive. It held fragments of political alliances, ancient rivalries, and forgotten loyalties. Some names point to mythic origins. O'Neill's traced descent from Niall MacDonald's claimed connection to Somold, a 12th century war leader. Welsh princes linked their bloodlines to legendary heroes, whether literal or symbolic. These claims shaped collective identity. Celtic identity was never only about blood, it was also about belonging to a shared story. Language, music, poetry, and law formed part of that inheritance. Surnames stood at the centre of it all. They marked you as part of a people shaped by specific landscapes, mountains of Snowdonia, glens of the Highlands, green valleys of Munster, rocky coasts of Connacht. Even today, genealogy has revived interest in these connections. Testing offers scientific insight, yet a surname still provides the first clue. It points toward region, language, and cultural tradition. Some families attempt to reclaim older spellings. Others research clan histories. Many discover that their name links them to events far older than expected. To the conquest of Ireland, wars of Scottish independence, Norman expansion into Wales. Through each upheaval, names adapted but endured. They absorbed outside influence while preserving older roots. This blending shaped modern British and Irish identity. Celtic heritage exists alongside Anglo-Saxon and Norman strands. A single surname may reflect layers of history. It might contain Gaelic origin, reshaped by English spelling, a Norman origin absorbed into Irish pronunciation. Complexity tells a deeper truth. Identity is rarely pure. It is woven from centuries of contact and change. Still within that complexity, ancient sounds persist. Soft breath of a Gaelic consonant, rhythm of Welsh syllable, echo of an ancestral homeland once spoken aloud. A surname can feel ordinary. Beneath it lies migration, survival, adaptation, and pride. It carries stories of hardship and a resilient sight. Remembers fields cleared, villages burned, and songs sung in defiance across continents. Celtic surnames continue to evolve, but their roots remain anchored in early medieval worlds of clans and kinship. Each generation adds another layer, and each time a name is spoken, the chain of memory extends forward. Ever wondered about the story behind your last name? If it's something like O'Connor, MacDonald, or Evans, you might have Celtic roots. These names are more than just labels. They're echoes of a rich and fascinating history. Let's dive into the world of Celtic surnames and uncover their secrets. Celtic surnames often tell you who your ancestors were, where they lived, or what they did for a living. They primarily come from Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Cornwall, Brittany, and the Isle of Man. Each region has its own unique naming traditions, but they share some common threads. Let's start with Ireland. Many Irish surnames begin with O or Mac. Mac means son of, so MacDonald literally means son of Donald. O means grandson of or descended from. So, if your name is a Brian, you're a descendant of a powerful ancestor named Brian, likely the famous High King Brian Boru. These names are called patronymics, and they were a way of tracing your lineage back to a celebrated clan founder. Moving over to Scotland, you'll find plenty of Macs as well. Think of MacLeod, Mackenzie, or MacGregor. These names are tied to the legendary Scottish clans, powerful family groups that once ruled the Highlands. Your clan name was your identity, connecting you to a specific territory, a chief, and a shared history of battles and alliances. Some Scottish names, like Campbell, which means crooked mouth, or Cameron, meaning crooked nose, started as nicknames describing a physical feature. Now, let's head to Wales. Welsh surnames are a bit different. Instead of "nac" or "o", they used "ap" or "of", meaning son of. So, "ap Rhys" meant son of Rhys. Over time, these prefixes merged with the father's name. "Ap Rhys" became Pris, and eventually, Price. "Ap Hywel" became Powell, and "Ap Evan" turned into Evans. That's why so many Welsh surnames sound familiar. Think Jones from John, Williams from William, and Davies from David. For a long time, Wales had one of the smallest pools of last names, leading to a lot of people sharing the same one. But what about names that don't mean son of? Many Celtic surnames come from occupations. In Ireland, the name Mac and Gabain means son of the smith, which was later anglicised to McGowan or Smith. In Scotland, the name Baxter means baker. These names give us a little glimpse into the daily lives and professions of our ancestors. Place names also played a big role. If someone moved from one village to another, they might have been named after their original home. And of course, there are those descriptive names based on personality or appearance. The Irish name Duff comes from the Gaelic word duff, meaning dark or black, likely referring to someone with dark hair. The Welsh name Lloyd comes from Lwyd, which means grey. The history of these names is also a story of survival. During periods of English rule, many families were forced to anglicise their Gaelic names. Why Conquest became O'Connor, and MacDonchada turned into MacDonagh. But in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, with a resurgence of Celtic pride, many people reclaimed the original Gaelic spellings of their names. So, your Celtic surname is a key to a vibrant past. It's a connection to ancient kings, fierce clans, hard-working craftspeople, and the beautiful landscapes of Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. It's a piece of history that you carry with you every single day. What's the story behind your last name? Share it in the comments below. We'd love to hear it. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more journeys into the past. See you next time.